Everyone thought Netflix lost. They didn't. They walked away from an $83 billion deal. And they did it on purpose. Because when Paramount raised the offer to around $111 billion, Netflix didn't blink. They folded. And Wall Street applauded. So today, why did Netflix walk away? And did they actually win by losing? The context. Back in December 2025, Netflix had a preliminary agreement to acquire Warner Bros. Discovery. $83 billion. Big, massive, industry-defining. Then, in February 2026, Paramount Skydance comes in. $31 per share. Total valuation roughly $111 billion. Game over. But here's the key point. Netflix didn't get outbid. They refused to bid higher. That's different. Reason 1. Financial discipline. This is the unsexy answer. Maths. Netflix co-CEOs Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters called the acquisition nice to have, not must have. Translation, they weren't going to torch their balance sheet for prestige. At $83 billion, possibly. At $111 billion plus debt.
No way!
No chance. Netflix is still a tech company at heart. They think in margins, return on investment, long-term shareholder value, not legacy studio sentiment. When Paramount escalated, Netflix stepped back, cold, calculated. Reason 2. The debt problem. This is the bit people gloss over. Warner Bros. Discovery comes with more than content. It comes with baggage. Over $40 billion in debt. Some estimates push the total financial exposure over $50 billion when structured.
No way!
If Netflix followed through, they inherit that in a higher interest rate environment at a time when investors are demanding profitability. Wall Street hated the deal, and when Netflix withdrew, shares jumped as much as 13 to 14% in after-hours trading. That's not subtle, that's relief. Investors weren't angry, they were grateful. Reason 3. Regulatory nightmare. Let's talk politics. A Netflix-Warner merger would have triggered DOJ antitrust review, EU competition review, possibly 18 to 24 months of legal scrutiny. And there were reports of skepticism from the Trump administration regarding Netflix's market dominance. Translation, this wouldn't have been smooth, it would have been bruising, expensive and slow. Netflix likely saw years of legal battles, frozen capital, public hearings, political grandstanding. Meanwhile, Paramount can fight that war. Netflix doesn't have to. Strategic retreat. The plot twist. They got paid. Here's the bit that feels absurd. Because of the agreement structure, when Paramount stepped in and the deal collapsed, a termination fee was triggered. $2.8 billion. Paid to Netflix. They walked away and received nearly $3 billion. That funds a lot of original content. That funds a lot of share buybacks. That funds stability. That's not losing. That's exiting with a bonus. Strategic pivot. Instead of buying Warner, Netflix is returning to what built them. Build versus buy. They've earmarked around $20 billion for their 2026 content slate. They're strengthening live events, doubling down on their own IP, and resuming capital returns to shareholders. No integration headache, no legacy cable networks, no CNN, no restructuring chaos. Clean, focused. The bigger game. There's another angle here. Was the original bid defensive? YouTube, TikTok, short-form dominance, streaming attention fragmentation. Buying Warner could have been about scale, but at a certain price, Scale stops being strategic and starts being reckless. Paramount needed this deal. Netflix didn't. That's the difference. So, who won? Paramount gets HBO, Warner Brothers Studio, DC, massive library scale. Netflix keeps cash, stock price stability, $2.8 billion, strategic flexibility. One inherits debt and integration risk. The other avoids it. You decide who won. Final thought. This wasn't weakness, it was restraint. And in corporate warfare, restraint can be lethal. Netflix didn't lose Warner, they chose not to overpay. That's discipline. Whether that discipline costs them long-term creative leverage, that's another video. On Watching Nonsense Unfold, I break down TV and films that fall apart under scrutiny, from plot logic to character decisions. More TV and film breakdowns on Watching Nonsense Unfold. This has been Watching Nonsense Unfold. Sometimes it really is nonsense, and sometimes it's just disappointing. Or is it? Anyway, that's what I thought. I'll be back with whatever I end up watching next.